afternoon and welcome. The ceremony will start in just a few minutes. The procession is on its way, but before that, I have a few notices to give out. Can I ask you all to check your mobile phones to make sure they're on silent, switch to flight mode, or even switched off? There's nothing more embarrassing than your phone going off in the middle of someone's speech. Thank you. No personal photography or filmography is permitted during the ceremony. This is due to data protection. Professional photos are available to purchase, and a stream of the event is available on YouTube. The link will be on the graduation page. Professional photos will be taken throughout the ceremony, and if anyone doesn't consent to their photo being taken today and used for publicity, please let myself or one of the marshals know. In the extremely unlikely event that we need to exit the building in a hurry, please remain calm and seated. Marshals will assist you in exiting the building. For staff on stage, there is a fire exit to the left of the altar, through the vestry. For people to my right, please exit through the rear tower door. For people to my left, please exit through the main entrance through which you came. Please wait to be directed by the marshals. When the ceremony has finished, the procession will leave the church, and you will all be asked to stand. The procession will be followed by the graduates, and finally, the remaining guests you will also be asked to follow. If any of the children here today do become restless, it can be a little bit of a long ceremony, please can I ask you that you perhaps take them outside for a little breath of fresh air and then bring them back in when appropriate. Finally, to the graduands, may I be the first to congratulate you on your achievement. When your name is called, please step onto the stage. You will shake the Chancellor's hand before looking to the camera to my left for your official photos. When you leave the stage, please walk down the centre aisle towards the back of the church, where a marshal will escort you back to your seat. Thank you. Please enjoy the ceremony and the rest of the day. Can I ask you please to be upstanding for the procession?
Please be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this ceremony for graduating the last of a magnificent cohort of students who've studied education and gained degrees, diplomas, certificates, and so forth. It's a faculty and a school of which we're all very proud. And I welcome you all on behalf of the university to this ceremony. Talking to you, the graduates, today is a very special occasion for you, and indeed for your friends and families, and for the staff, the faculty who have taught you. Attaining your degree or qualification from the University of Buckingham is a real achievement and something of which you will always be proud. As I think you will know, you have enjoyed the benefits of an unusually high standard of teaching from dedicated staff. And I know that you will have studied hard to achieve your goals, as you are doing today. Distributed though you have been with quite a lot of distance learning, I hope you've managed to take every virtual or real opportunity to be an active part of the diverse and multicultural student body, which is such a strength of the university and which will have introduced you to people, experiences, traditions, and cultures from across the world. You are the latest in a lengthening and long line of distinguished graduates from the University of Buckingham. As you look back at your time here and remember the support and encouragement you received, we hope you will pass on support and encouragement to those you teach and interact with, and that you will act as ambassadors for your university and continue to enhance our fine reputation. I congratulate each and every one of you and wish you every good fortune in your chosen career and future lives. Thank you.
Dame Mary, distinguished graduates, ladies and gentlemen, faculty and staff of the University of Buckingham, I warmly welcome you to the university on this lovely summer's afternoon. I particularly want to give thanks to Dame Mary Archer for coming all this way. She's the distinguished chair, of course, of the Science Museum and also our chancellor. And it's so wonderful to have you here for the week of graduations and here this afternoon in particular. I also want to welcome Nick Hurd, who is the Chief Learning Officer of the National College of Education, who will be saying a few words after you've received your degrees. So it's a terrific pleasure to welcome you here, and afterwards we'll be meeting on the Balloff lawn in the Marquee. You've been down there already. I know I've seen some of you already, and I'll be looking forward to meeting you and your families in more detail there. Welcome to our verdant campus. You'll have seen, I know some of you, this is your first time here, which is quite funny to be becoming graduates after doing the distance learning that was inevitable over the last couple of years. But you'll enjoy our campus. You'll see that it's nestled into a fold of the river Great Ouse, so surrounded on three sides by water. And that actually, where our campus is, was actually the site of the original 7th century Saxon settlement. In Anglo-Saxon, ing means people of, ham means water meadow, and buca was the Saxon chief, so Buckingham is the low-lying water meadow of Buca's people, and you could see it was quite nicely defended on three sides by the river, and on the fourth it was defended by this small hill that you came up. This was where the Saxon fort was, then there was the Norman castle, and now of course this wonderful church here. And indeed, in this very spot, in 1976, at, I assume, the same dais, the University College at Buckingham was opened by one Margaret Thatcher. She was leader of the opposition then in 1976, yes, and she went on to become, of course, the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But she was proud of the University of Buckingham, proud of our independent stance. And she said some things that are very important, I think, for you as graduates of the University of Buckingham to take into account. She said, independence, we must remember, is not a gift. It is not something that governments confer, but something that a free people enjoys and uses. She went on, but unless we are worthy and able to take advantage of a freedom not yet extinguished in our land, we shall become pale shadows, like civilizations before us, who were eventually thrust aside and dispossessed by more vigorous rivals. Under Margaret Thatcher in 1983, when she was Prime Minister, we got our Royal Charter, and then when she retired from politics, she became, like Dame Mary, our Chancellor, our second Chancellor, and she was also very involved, as is Dame Mary, in the student life of the community. So that was all said on this spot, but it's a special privilege for me to be on this spot today with you, the graduates of the education faculty, because education was my discipline. Before I became Vice-Chancellor, I was Professor of Education Policy at Newcastle University, and before that in other universities, always working in the discipline of education. I started as a mathematics teacher in Zimbabwe as a young man, straight out of college, and then worked at the National Foundation for Educational Research in Slough, and then did my PhD at UCL. And through my PhD, I became an expert on private education. But that was somehow dissatisfying to me. I was an expert. I was being given consultancy work by bodies like the International Finance Corporation in Washington, D.C., but it dissatisfied me because I felt my life should be about serving the poor. And yet private education, as everyone knew then, is all about the privileged and the elite. And this dissatisfaction in my life, this discord was resolved one day when I was working in Hyderabad on a consultancy project for the International Finance Corporation on a high-end college. And on a day off from that work, I followed a hunch and took an auto rickshaw down to the slums of the old city of Hyderabad. And I went walking in those slums and found what I had a hunch I might find. And that was I found a school, but not a government school, not the normal sort of school that you might expect, but a private school charging just £1 a month. The equivalent now would be £5 to £10 a month. A private school serving poor communities, a low-cost private school. And then I found another and another. And soon I was in touch with a federation of 500 of those low-cost private schools. And I spoke to a lot of parents, mostly Muslim mums in that part of Hyderabad. I said, why are you sending your child to private school when you can send them to the government school and there's no tuition, there's free lunch? Why are you doing this? It makes no sense. And typically the answer was along these lines. In the government school, our children are abandoned. So I went to see one of these government schools. And unlike the buildings in the slums, which were very simple structures, the government school was a fine, proper pucca building, as they call them in India. It was a proper building, but I went with the district education officer, and the first classroom we went into, there were 130 children. I'll never forget the sight of 130 children seated on the floor amongst the mosquitoes, bright-eyed, wanting to learn, wanting to do something, but abandoned by their teachers. And the district education officer was remarkable in his candor. He said, this is true every day. There's a token teacher here or two to keep order, but everyone else stays away. And so I went back to Washington, D.C., fired up by what I'd seen. And then they told me to calm down, Thule. All you've seen is maybe a few businessmen ripping off the poor. And that didn't connect with what I had seen there in the slums. I'd seen people working hard for the sake of their children and holding sports days and science fairs on the weekends. So I, sufficiently interested in this, managed to raise research funding, and I explored this phenomenon throughout the developing world. First of all, in Nigeria, some of the poorest slums in the world, places like Makoko, a shanty town built on stilts into the dark waters of the Lagos Lagoon. places like Kibera in Nairobi, Kenya, other slums in Ghana and other parts of India, even rural China. I found the same phenomenon, these low-cost private schools serving the majority of the urban poor, outperforming the government schools at fees affordable by the poor parents on the poverty line. And finally, over the last 20 years, I decided to look in the world's most difficult places, which are conflict-affected countries in Africa. And I went to Liberia, Sierra Leone. These were just after the civil wars had ended. Went to South Sudan as the civil war was beginning, and Somalia as war was an everyday feature of life. And I found the same phenomenon there, that there was this amazing movement of self-help, entrepreneurial self-help amongst the communities there, building schools, creating schools that were better than those government-funded, better than those funded by international aid, and doing a marvellous job there. So look, I hope you don't mind me telling you a bit about my progression in education. Some of you have been smiling and nodding as I've been speaking, and get a sense that maybe the journey as an educator can be so exciting, whether you're an educator in a nearby English town, or you're traveling around the world, or you're working in Qatar or Dubai. The journey of an educator is so exciting on all those levels. And I am thrilled to be seeing, as it were, myself in the audience and recognizing, I wonder what he will be doing, she will be doing in a few years' time, and how through education you will change the world. I always like to focus in these graduation speeches on some events in history that link in chronologically with today in history. And so this week in history was very momentous for politics in 1945. And this has linkage, if you like, with the current political shenanigans that have been going on lately, because, of course, Boris Johnson holds as one of his heroes Winston Churchill. And in 1945, Winston Churchill, having, in a sense, helped win the war, he was deposed, as it were. The British people voted him out of office and voted in the Labour government of Attlee. And I think there are a few quotes from Winston Churchill I'd like to read to you, which I think can help us as we prepare for the next steps in our journey. First of all, there is humility that comes through in some of his speeches. Humility is so important. Modesty. On winning the war, he said, "I have never accepted what many people have kindly said, namely that I inspired the nation. It was the nation and those dwelling all around the globe that had the lion's heart. I had the luck to be called upon to give the lion's roar." And then he talks a lot about success and failure, because Winston Churchill's life, anyone who studied it will see ups, highs and lows, success after failure, after success and failure. But on a smaller level, this is true of all of our lives. We've all been through problems, failures, disappointments. We've all seen those successes and then had to move on and overcome difficulties. And he said this lovely line, I think it's a beautiful line. "Success," says Winston Churchill, "consists of going from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm." I think that's a lovely line. But then finally from Winston Churchill, just on special occasions, like this special occasion for you today. He wrote, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour." I like to think that at the University of Buckingham, we have made you prepared, or helped make you prepared and qualified for when that moment comes, that moment when a special thing, the special thing to you, unique to you and your talents and interests and desires, that special thing will come and make you be able to embrace your finest hour or even hours. It's my great pleasure to talk to you now and just finish with the Buckingham's motto. Buckingham's motto is Alice volans proprius. I've got it written on my cufflinks, in fact. Alice volans proprius, flying on your own wings. I'd like to think that we have helped you get your wings, enable you to fly, or at least be part of that process that helps you fly high. But we also want to be a strong part of your roots. Do please see yourselves as part of this growing international family of Buckingham alumni. I wish you very, very well for the next stages of your lives. Life may not be all plain sailing. There will be ups and downs, but you'll get through. I know that. So please keep in touch. Thank you.
Chancellor, I call upon Professor Barnaby Lennon, Dean of the Faculty of Education, to present candidates for awards of the University of Buckingham in Education.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was a teacher for 40 years. I still am. I'm in touch with friends from school and university, and although some of them have made more money than I have, I'm so pleased that after I left university, I decided to be a teacher, and I hope that many of you are too. The joy of being able to stay close to a subject that I loved. The discovery that I could continue throughout my career to develop my interest in that subject, while taking on new responsibilities as the years ticked by. I never found teaching boring, and often found it riveting, and not enough people can say that of their jobs. The fun of working alongside like-minded colleagues, the everyday drama of school life, the terrible things some pupils do, the wonderful things some pupils do, the fact that few jobs have the capacity to make so much difference to the lives of young people. The other day I was invited for coffee with an army general who claimed that I taught him in 1980. It didn't mean much to me, I'm afraid, except for the fact that the coffee was a reminder to all us teachers that in some small way that had significance to him, I had said or done something that he still remembered and which had had a helpful impact on his life. And in 30 years' time, many of your pupils will remember you. Many will be grateful, especially for pressing on during those dimly remembered days of that virus. Many will remember a good deal of what you taught. Some will recall individual lessons and even specific things that you said in an individual lesson. No one told me that that would happen when I did my teacher training. Because you are the key workers. We teachers, we may not be wealthy, but we are so rich and so clever for having chosen a profession which leads to a life which is brimming with interest and full of moral purpose. And so, Chancellor, I present to you the graduates in education for the degree of Master of Education at the National College of Education, Marianne Alicia, with distinction. Lina Avila Munoz, with distinction. Mary Barclay Agiapong. Angela Bulkley, Thomas Capewell with distinction, Louise Cassels with distinction, Denise Chimhine, Kim Corbett with distinction, Sharon Corkery, Andrew Stephen Crush, Benjamin Darling, Sandra Donnelly with distinction, Joanne Eldridge, Sangeeta Fleet, Diana Fandira, Stuart Gander, Rosanna Goldstein with distinction, Danielle Greenaway with distinction, Hannah Hamid with distinction, Eleanor Hollindale with distinction, Leanne Home with distinction, Sandeep Kuna with distinction, Janice Lewis, Iram Malik Myford, Elaine Martin with distinction, Janine McCann with distinction, Ruth McManus, Kabir Mir, Victoria Musson, Catherine Oliver, Laura Ollie with distinction, Tracy Parish with distinction, Georgina Pearson with distinction, Joanne Pikalski with distinction, Gemma Powell with distinction. Claire Pretty with distinction. Ivan Rowetz. Samina Saidia with distinction. Anita Saville. Carly Smith. Timothy Steed with distinction. Rebecca Stott. Karina Thompson. Ian Walsh with distinction. Samantha Lee Warrington with distinction. Donna Marie Wellings. Vanessa Whitcomb with distinction. For the degree of Master of Education in Educational Leadership and Management, Nicola Antwis. Andrew Dax with distinction. Stuart Getty with distinction. James Guest. Christina McCulloch with distinction. Emma Mosley. Samuel Palacios with distinction. Rachel Rees with distinction. Ross Newman with distinction. Rachel Smith with distinction. For the award of Postgraduate Certificate in Education with Qualified Teacher Status, Juliana Smart. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
Chancellor, Mr. Nick Hurd, Chief Learning Officer, Oceanova, will now address the graduates.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all, as I'm so proud to be sharing in your graduation day. We promised to get you through, and it's been an absolute honour to share in your peak moments. What you've achieved is remarkable. You've managed to provide for the communities you serve through a global pandemic while studying during the most challenging and turbulent years in education ever. I've been asked to deliver an inspirational speech, and in the absence of someone who's climbed Everest without oxygen, free soloed up El Capitan, or even won a gold medal, you've got me. Still and always just a teacher. Battle-scarred from teaching PE, running in and out of some of the most challenging gang-ridden estates in South London, desperate to make a difference in a system and looking at you all, and by vicarious attribution, I think I may have just done it. You might find some of what I will share with you inspiring. You will find some of it boring. You will definitely forget most of it. I wanted to start with what I perceive to be the 6 most valuable rules of life. Some fueled by Professor Steve Peters and the Chimp Paradox, some from Sam Conniff and Be More Pirate, and others simply my own. So rule number 1, life is not fair. It's absolutely not fair. Don't overthink it. Life is what it is. Accept it, embrace it, thrive in it, and make the most of every moment and enjoy it. Rule number 2, the goalposts move. Dreaming is the ultimate act of self-indulgence and delusion. Goalposts move, so don't waste your time on the maybe. Rather, be passionate in your dedication to the pursuit of short-term goals. Be micro-ambitious. Put your head down and work with pride on whatever it is in front of you. You never know where you might end up. Just be aware that the next worthy pursuit will probably appear in your periphery, which is why you should be careful of solely long-term dreams and pursuits. If you focus too far in front, to quote Tim Minchin, you simply won't see the shiny thing out the corner of your eye, the glittering prize within your grasp. Don't inhabit the wasteland of missed opportunity. Rule number 3, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees in life, only death, and that's an altogether different occasion. The only guarantee I can afford is to lead with empathy first, your heart second, and finally your head. Listen to others more than you speak. Be curious about others, be generous of spirit. Notice what others don't. I can guarantee, and the irony isn't lost, that if you do this, the impact on those around you will be enduring and lasting. Some would even dare to call this leadership. Rule number 4, be a teacher. Please, please, please continue to be a teacher. Teachers are the most admirable and important people in the world. Share your ideas, your passion. Don't take for granted the privilege of your education. Rejoice in what you have learned and share it. Be evangelical in your approach and rejoice in the gift of learning for those that you serve. Rule number 5, notice and respect people with less power than you. I have in the past made important decisions about the people I work with, who I appoint, based solely on how they treat people around them. I don't care if you're the highest paid person in the room. I will judge you on how you treat the least powerful. Notice, notice, notice everyone, especially those that are present and quiet. Introversion is a superpower. When I've finished trembling over this speech, I may reflect that I've enjoyed sharing it with you. Rule number 6, and for me the most important and the final rule, be more pirate. Pirates are heroes. They challenge the status quo and innovated beyond belief. There's much to be learned from pirates about inclusion, and I invite you to challenge your own bias and explore the world of pirating as your secret weapon in challenging the way that you think. Dare to think differently and challenge the permeating culture for those that you serve. In the words of Banksy, the greatest crimes in this world are committed by those people who simply follow the rules. Go break some. And to close, I've chosen words adapted from Peter Dale Wimbro's poem, The Man in the Glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you sovereign for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that person has to say. For it isn't your father, mother, or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The person whose verdict counts most in your life is staring back from the glass. They're the person to please, never mind the rest. They're with you clear to the end. And you've passed your most difficult, dangerous test if the person in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the person in the glass. Thank you for indulging me. Go on and be modern-day pirates. Drive change our educational world needs. Create future greatness and grow exponentially, because if anyone can do it, it's you.
The Chancellor will now conclude this ceremony.
Thank you, Registrar. The ceremony is indeed now drawing to its close. May I again congratulate all our new graduates and wish you all good fortune in the next stage of your life and careers. As you leave the university, you will take with you, wherever you go and throughout your life, the knowledge and skills you have acquired at Buckingham of educational theory and practice. Equipped as you are with the skills and knowledge to rescue young minds, indeed minds of all ages, from the pain and tyranny of ignorance. Flying on your own wings and helping your pupils, students, to fly on their own wings. May I also say what a pleasure it was to listen to Nick Hurd of Oceana, which is a supplier of apprenticeships and apprenticeship opportunities, which is a very important and practical route by which school teachers who, for various reasons, didn't get those letters after their name first time round, can come and do so by the apprenticeship route. And what a splendid route it is. I don't know how you did about those 6 rules. I know I've broken at least 2 of them. So stay a teacher, I think, was rule number 5. Well, I obeyed that for about 20 years. I taught chemistry and then somehow deviated off into other things. But you never really leave teaching behind. Once a teacher, always a teacher, as my children and grandchildren now sometimes complain when we have reading class, as we do, under the stairs. Then rule number 6, be more pirate. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel it's a bit late to become a pirate of the Caribbean, but you could perhaps become pirates of the Great Ooze and break a few carefully selected rules. Nick said he hadn't brought any heroes with him, but heroes are important in our life, as the Vice-Chancellor reminded us when he spoke of Winston Churchill, who certainly rallied this country through World War II, and who, yesterday in 1945 was dismissed by the British electorate, but said that he had been privileged during those war years to deliver the roar of the lion. Well, I don't know about the roar of the lion, but I think today and on Sunday we should hear a little roar for the lionesses. This ceremony is now concluded.
Please be upstanding.